And yes, good. Close to me. Awesome.
And you got to close out of the other one so I don't echo.
I did it this time. Success.
Professionalism is rising. I love it.
Hashtag winning. Okay. Welcome to another episode of enLIGHTen with Div and Diana. What we were exploring last night, and we thought we'd carry that over to today's discussion, is about attraction and the to be perfectly honest, I almost named this YouTube "Don't Date Assholes."
Don't date assholes.
Yes, and I'm reminded of a particular incident in Diana's kitchen when I was asking the question, what's the learning in this? Like, surely there's a learning in this, right? Because I believe strongly there's a learning in everything that we experience when we're awake and looking for it. When we're looking for, what can I learn for this? How is this for me? How is this useful? So I asked that question, and Diana's response was,
don't date assholes. We've got like a clapping pattern so you can remember.
And I just bust out laughing, and she was like, what? I'm friending right now. I'm not coaching. It was great. It was wonderful. And so we've been talking about attraction and the types of people that we're drawn to, and and not drawn to simultaneously, where there is and where there isn't attraction. How do we understand that from different contexts? And so yeah, this is just carrying on that conversation. Yeah. What comes to you as I share?
Well, I feel like I should be fair and say, while I constantly need to remind you, don't date assholes, I need to start my own little chant for don't date unemotionally available people. Like, that's my pattern. I always go for the person that's like leaving the country, moving away soon, can't get into a relationship. It's like crack. I'm just like, yes, that's what I want. So just to put it in perspective, we all play out weird romantic patterns in different ways. That's, yeah.
What this comes to is, attraction, different theories of attraction, and the attraction based on our kind of, it's called developmental imprint attraction, the childhood patterns. What we're attracted to is that which we had growing up. So if we had an emotionally unavailable or absent father, then that's what we would be drawn to. Or if we had, in my case, a capricious kind of parent, then that's what we're drawn to. And so it begs the question, right? So there's this level of developmental imprint attraction. Really, what the question that I've been sitting with, that I've been asking is, does that ever change? Does it ever change when we will our attraction change? And already, like, that's the question that I've been sitting with recently, and already I'm noticing it changes, like all things do, with gentleness and earnestness. Like, it comes back to me kind of in the yoga practice, when we don't have an agenda for it to change, but we just witness, like, oh, this is what's here. And in the witnessing and the accepting, it does change on its own, inevitably, over time. But as long as there's that resistance to, I wish this wasn't the case, and of course we can go into the fact that when we say technically no one actually is an asshole, because
I beg to differ, but that's just the comedian in me. That's like, some people are assholes. Otherwise, how can I make fun of them?
Well, there's a specific set of behaviors that we label asshole.
Oh.
Asshole, like your definition of what's an asshole is not necessarily the same as mine, and I don't know if we're allowed to use that word on YouTube in terms of if it's gonna like it or not. But never mind. I didn't say that there was a explicit warning. But anyway, so just the idea of different people have different reference points for what that is, and it's a number of behaviors that we can then group into a label of this is this type of person, and that's not really helpful for us, because when we do that, we miss the things that aren't that, because we're seeing them as that. So we miss the things that aren't, if that makes sense. If when we're seeing someone, when we have an idea of this person's an ass, then we aren't able to see any of the ways in which they're not that, because we're unconsciously filtering for that. So that's one thing that is in my awareness. And the other thing is just the recognition of the acceptance of what's there when we resist our current situation. Like if there's a sense of, I don't want to be attracted to emotionally unavailable people anymore, the more that you don't want that, of course, resistance will create resistance. Yeah.
Oh, I'm very happy still being attracted to emotionally unavailable people. I am, yeah, still where I'm up to, and I'm loving it. It's all good. It's all good with me. I enjoy it. There's a freedom in it for me. I'm like, yep, this is a pattern. I know this pattern. I'm used to this pattern. Super comfortable. I'm good.
That's the thing that we get from our patterns, comfort. You know, a lot of people don't necessarily realize, why do I keep doing this? Well, it's familiar, and familiarity is a really strong driver of ours, because if it's familiar, at least on a like a hindbrain level, at least we feel like it's safe. Yeah. Whereas something that's not that, like, I don't know if that's actually safe.
Yeah.
And it's not until we operate in higher order wiser thinking that we're able to use more discernment to guide us.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember when I first did work on this, because I had resistance initially to this idea that I would stay in a shitty situation or something I didn't like just because it was comfortable and I knew it. And it took me a while to actually wrap my head around the fact that that is something we all do regularly. And it's like that. There's a lyric in a song that's somewhere in my brain, and it's kind of like, the devil that you know is better than the one you don't. And it's that thing where you sort of, yeah, this is shit, but it's shit that I know. Like, I know that, like, this is going to happen, then that's going to happen. And if this happens, react this way. And like, there's a pattern that I'm familiar with. I don't have to learn anything new. There's no stretch. It's just like, yep, this is comfortable. And that's why we like often do repeat these patterns, because I already know the formula. Yeah, it's shitty, but I know how this works, versus, oh, that thing over there could be better, but I don't know how to do it yet. And there's like an effort in that.
Yeah, an effort. That is, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I mean, that's like, there's a certain degree of cognitive bandwidth, capacity, efforting that's required when we are going to try something new, when we're going to be curious. Like, consciousness takes energy. Consciousness takes energy. So the question is, like, when we were exploring, why would we be below the line being unconscious rather than conscious? Why would anyone choose to be unconscious rather than conscious? Because it takes less energy to assign someone a role, assign someone a label, see them as that, rather than to be switched on and be discerning, to be really fully in the moment. How might I respond to this, without any story of has happened previously or what we think might happen in the future or any of that. All of that is, particularly when we're relying on past events, that is, we're using our heuristics, our cognitive shortcuts, and that's the brain trying to preserve energy, you know, and that's just kind of, that's how we evolve. Like, let me preserve my resources. We take shortcut heuristics. That's where heuristics came from.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I think, like, how do I put it? I also feel that sometimes I'll only speak to myself and my dating history. As you alluded to at the beginning of this, part of the reason I'm very attracted to emotionally unavailable people is because I experienced a lot of that in my formative years. And there's a part of me that feels like winning when I can get that person I know is emotionally unavailable to, like, give me, like, just a little, like, someone can show up and be like, I love you and you're beautiful and I want to spend time with you. And I'm just like, yeah, that's nice. Whatever. Cool. All right. And then someone's like, yeah, I don't like you. And I'm like, let me prove to you why you're wrong. And there's like an accomplishment in that. Don't get me wrong. I know how messed up this is. It's, yeah. Anyway, that is a pattern I do.
I know
and
exactly what you're referring to.
Thanks. It's that thing where it's like, if I can, like, it's soothing that inner child that I think we were talking about. Was that yesterday? The inner child versus the adult, or was that the day before?
Yeah, maybe that was yesterday. Yeah, I don't know.
And watch one of the other videos if you want to know more about this. But it's soothing to that inner child to sort of prove, like, to overcome the thing that I faced then. And it's like, let me do the pattern again and show you again. It didn't have to be like that. And now let me do it again. So I think there can also be something in the romantic pattern. Well, it's not even just your romantic patterns. It's just that part of the patterning is I'm still trying to learn something, show something, get something from it. If there was nothing that I was getting, and like one of those things can be the comfort of, I know how to do this. One of them can be, I am proving to my younger self it didn't have to be that way. Like there are different things, but there is a reason that the pattern repeats. There's always like something you're getting from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my experience, the thing that we think that we want from the other is the thing that we need to
want to give ourselves. Yeah.
That we have to give ourselves, because the other person
can't.
Yeah.
I know. It's so, like, I know that you probably, well, no, you might agree. Doesn't it get like a little bit annoying on occasion when, like, you realize that all the work is your work?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure
it used to, but now I find it fun.
Now it doesn't bother you because you're like, yes, more work. I know how to do this. But every now and then I really want the other person to actually be an asshole, or like for the problem to actually be over there and for me to be like, nah, I'm going to take a $5, you go deal with your shit. But it never happens that way. It's always like, nah, I got to deal with my shit. Like, and that's why, like, I didn't say, oh, how do I put it? It's not like, there is no part of me that's trying, well, no, that's not entirely true. The majority of me is not trying to change this emotionally unavailable person. I'm participating in that willingly. And it's like, I can't change that person. I've actually got to change myself. And that can get really annoying. I'm like, no, I want it to be their fault just once. Just once I want it to be actually not my work to do. But it's
I so get you.
always my work. It's always our own work. And it's like,
well, okay, actually, I'm really glad that you brought that up. I'm really, really glad that you brought that up, because I feel like this is something that people often misunderstand when we say it's always our own work, because the work isn't always the same as what we're seeing externally. And okay, so my last romantic relationship, the core of the work could be really easily accessed through mirror theory. Mirror theory, projection, spotting, you got it, right? The core of the work was What am I seeing over there? How's that true of me? And make the adjustment in me. What am I seeing over there? How's that true of me? Make the adjustment and continue to refine in that way. In this particular context, with this particular asshole, I say that lovingly.
Always with love. We call you an asshole with love, always.
In this particular context, it's polarity. And why this is important is I can't use the same technique that worked before in this context because it's a different set of lessons. So for instance, if the accusation is you're an arrogant prick, then rather than look and ask myself, well, where am I an arrogant prick? Because the lessons are polarity at the moment, that's not actually the question I need to be asking myself. The question I need to be asking myself is, what's the opposite of an arrogant prick? What's the polar opposite of that? And humble pleaser would be the opposite in my world, perhaps. Okay, how's that true of me? Where am I that? And so it's a refinement in terms of recognizing both are equally off center. It's just the poles that they are off center. And when we learn to appreciate what someone can reveal to us in polarity, then there's a recognition, okay, so someone else, you're emotionally unavailable. Well, how am I overly emotionally available? Like,
don't mess with my head live on YouTube. That's not fair. That's not fair. I mean, it's true. It's 100% true. I am like, it's that great thing, actually. If, oh God, I'm just thinking of a really funny university memory now, right? So I was known as a cold-hearted, stuck-up bitch, basically. I was not aware of this until a friend drunkenly getting out of my car after I'd given them a lift was like, I don't care what other people say. You're not a stuck-up bitch. You have some nice qualities. And their girlfriend was like, get the out of the car right now. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. I had some awareness that this is how the world was seeing me. And the thing was, right, I wasn't. I was actually incredibly shy, which sounds weird coming from me now. But it was like I had a lot of insecurity and a lot of fear really, really deep down. And the way I protected myself was to act like I don't give a and that comes off as like sort of cold-hearted bitch was the descriptor. And that was that thing of like, when I was little, I was so emotionally needy and so ready to put myself out there. And then when that didn't always work out, I went so far the other way for a while. And then like, and it's kind of that thing. And it is like that center. If I go here, I'll end up equally over here at some point, and then here, and then here. And you kind of slowly, it's like a little pendulum. It slows down if you keep doing your work and comes to center, where it's like, now I have a balance of, don't necessarily need that opinion, but we'll take that one. I love you. I'm not sure about you. Like there's like negotiation that happens. And so I'm sort of in that bit as opposed to either end. But that slide is so real. It's so real.
Yeah. So in attachment theory, that the center point is secure attachment, and then there's the anxious, and then there's the avoidant. And basically, do you cling energetically, or do you pull away energetically? Do you move in or do you move out energetically from when there's deviation from a center state? And usually we'll do one end and then go the other way, and cleaning up those patterns is learning a more conscious way to relate. As you said, the swings get smaller and smaller, and as we bring a higher degree of awareness to them. And I think the important thing to pay attention to here, as you said, it's always our work. I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, just tuning him into saying, okay, whatever it is you're seeing out there, it's not about like, don't pay attention to what comes out of that person's mouth in this context. Pay attention to what comes out of your own mouth. Listen to what you say, because that's your work. That's what you need to apply in this context. Like, so if my observation is this person is has a hyper developed sense of their human psyche and is kind of spiritually starving, what's the opposite of that? And how's that true of me? You know, so there's life is always teaching us when we're paying attention to what turns up and asking ourselves useful questions. And
yeah, I mean, that's where that, like, spot it, you got it is great, but there's also spot it, you've got the exact opposite of it. Like, that's the flip side. So, you know, there's that thing of like, oh, because I've actually had this myself, and I know other people that have gone through it, where it's like, oh, I can hear the accusation. How is that true of you? And they're like, oh, that's definitely not true of me. Like, I know. And I'm like, first of all, thou doth protest too much. But secondly, okay, cool. What's the exact opposite of that accusation you made? And how is that true of you? Like, that's the game that I play with myself in order to find the personal work. Because that's the thing, like, you've got to use these tools to find what needs working on.
Well, because the exact opposite is the same, because what we're talking about is the degree off center. How is that true of me? What is that degree off center? Like, I can't think, whatever an accusation might be. That's mere.
It gets hard after a while to remember the accusations you used to make of people. Do you find that? Like,
yeah, these days, I do.
Yeah.
But when they come up, so I'm going to use the one that the friend said yesterday. That he said, I feel uncomfortable around you, because he's talking about someone else, and I asked him what was the accusation. He said, I feel uncomfortable around you because I feel like you don't really love yourself. And you know, you want others to do it for you. And how's that true of you? Because that's an instance where mirror theory might be appropriate, and it's up to us to tune in and find out, is it this pole, or is it the opposite pole? Both will be equally off center. You know, it doesn't matter. Am I doing the anxious? Am I doing the avoidant? What am I doing that's off center? What's out of balance, right? What is out of balance? And of course we can't come back to balance unless we have some mindfulness and awareness of what that actually is. So that's something that I'm really grateful for, is having tuned an awareness of what balance is. We can talk about that on another episode.
yeah, we've gone so far from don't date assholes. Like, we've just.
I know, I feel like it hasn't been that tangential. It's pretty much on, you know.
It's pretty much on message. Yeah, I can see that.
Don't date assholes.
That's just good life advice in general. But yeah.
Well, and alongside that, don't be an asshole. Assholes. Not really. Yeah. But, in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like, because we all have assholes. We all have them. So just be aware of who we really are. So I'll leave it at that. And today's Thursday, so we will not be back tomorrow, next week. Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye.